starting a new sermon series this week. It's called Next of Kin. And you're going to see this idea of sermon series come up throughout the year at different times. This particular time, we're going to be taking a look at 3 different families in the life of Scriptures. We're looking at Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, and Noah and his family. This time. The next time it comes up, and it'll be a while, but you'll see it again. We'll take a look at Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So the idea of this sermon series is kind of be an ongoing teaching sermon series where we look at the lessons from Scripture of the different families that have to speak to us in today's world. So this week we're starting off with Adam and Eve. And so we're going to be reading from Genesis this morning. So hear these words. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth, God said, "Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the wild animals of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God saw everything that he had made, and indeed, it was very good. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to till it and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, "You may freely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall die." It's the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. This was Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, 26 to 27, 31, and chapter 2, 15 to 17, just to kind of put it in context for you. Obviously, we didn't read the whole thing there. So next of kin. These stories that we're going to be talking about for the next 3 weeks are archetypical stories. Do we know what that means? Do we know what the word archetype means? Creative. Foundational. Service examples. That's probably the closest definition. What's that name? Templates. It's actually, I found it was a really hard word to define when I started wrestling with it because it kind of goes all over the place on its definition. So the working definition that we're going to use this morning is stories that use patterns that are repeated in our lives. Stories that use patterns that are repeated in our lives. And you're going to see that as we talk about Adam and Eve this morning, one in particular that repeats itself over and over and over again. The stories in Scripture are intended to teach us about ourselves. They're intended to teach us theology. They're intended to teach us about God and our relationship with God. And the story of Adam and Eve is attempting to answer 3 very basic questions. Those questions are, who are we? Why are we here? And is there a God? And if so, what is God like? This is what the story of Adam and Eve is attempting to answer for us. And as you'll find in all of these stories, there's controversies that exist throughout. Okay? And so, just hit them head on. If you believe in the creation story, the earth is only 6,000 years old. Science says no. The earth is 4-point-something billion years old. Okay? If you don't believe in the story literally, you're not a Christian. No, not true. The science doesn't work. Actually, that's true. The science doesn't work. If you look at the creation story and the way that you want one example, one link, we can spend all day on this one. Science says that the sun would have been created first, and then the earth. And in the creation story, earth is created, and then the sun is created afterwards. So there are controversies that exist that the science and creation story do not necessarily line up. But Scripture, remember I said Scripture was intended to teach us theology and about God. Scripture is not intended to be a biology, a geology, an astronomy, a science, or even a history lesson. But was not the purpose of Scripture. And so before anybody comes up to me later and says, but Pastor, there's history in the Bible. Yes, there is. The Bible does contain history, but it is not intended to be a history lesson. It is intended to teach us theology and about our relationship with God and help us to understand our story. And answer the questions. Why are we here? What about God? Who is He? What's this God in life? That's the purpose of Scripture for us. Scripture was written to teach us about ourselves. This is really important because without Scripture, we don't fully understand where we came from, how we got here, or any of those questions. They go unanswered. And it's human nature. I don't know about you. For me, it's my human nature to want to ask those questions. Where did all this start? How did it begin? Where did I come from? And Scripture attempts to help us put that in perspective. Scripture is intended to be read as an epic poem about the truth of our existence. Scripture truly is literature. It is the most magnificent, beautiful book ever written in all of time. And it tells our story with God. So it's an epic poem about the truth of our existence. And those truths are, God is behind everything. Creation has a purpose. And we are created by God. This is at the core of what Scripture is trying to teach us. Especially, I call these early stories the prologue. All the stuff that happens before the flood, they're kind of the prologue to our story. Our story really takes root and gets grounded when we start talking about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So this is kind of the prologue to the bigger story that's to come. But we need it because we need to understand the foundation of which the story is built. Our story with God. So, do not check your brain at the door. We can't do that. God gave this magnificent mind to use and to process and to reason and experience the world around you and to grow in faith because of that. I believe God wants us to grow and learn and know more and more every single day. And that's why we have the minds that we do. And He fully intends us to use them. Now, very clear. I don't care whether you believe it's a literal story or that you believe it's a figurative story when it comes to Adam and Eve. Because I believe no matter what you believe about that, the same message is true in this story. That it's a story about God and our relationship with God. And it answers the fundamental questions of who are we, why are we here, and who is God. And this is the message of Scripture to us. So let's keep the main thing the main thing. Ready? In the beginning, God. Got it? That's the homework. If you don't forget that, you can hang on to a lot of Scripture. In the beginning, God. In the beginning of my life, God. In the beginning of your life, God. God existed before, now, and will continue into the future. In the beginning. Every time I say that, you got to say God today, okay? And the beautiful thing about this story is that all creation points towards God. All of creation. This whole story points towards God. Every word, every sentence is pointing us back towards God. Because in the beginning, God. Therefore, we have to always continue to remind ourselves, to point ourselves back towards God. Because it all starts with God. Now, when I start thinking about all things pointing towards God, I love space exploration. I mean, I know that about me. Yeah, I'm older, I said that. And so I love looking at the photographs from the Hubble telescope. You all see some of those, right? This is one of the images that I just find extremely fascinating. And so I want you to just realize this, and maybe you do, but this picture, obviously it's been color enhanced by computers. This image is thousands of light years from Earth. Thousands of light years. Now, just so you understand it, that's how fast light travels, okay? And you guys know how fast light travels, right? When we flip these lights on, the room's lit, right? Well, not these, but in your home, you flip the light up in the room lights up, right? And that light travels that fast. And this light has taken thousands of years to get to us. So the image that we're seeing right there happened thousands of years ago. And so when we look out into the universe, we're looking into the past. Thousands of years into the past. I find that amazing when I start thinking about God creating the universe and all that is out there that we still do not understand and likely, and most everybody in this room's lifetime won't understand because it's that vast and it's that spectacular. And then I come back here right now. We got a baby back here in this. I missed that this morning. So, proud grandparents. But think about all that went into creating that baby. Okay, science can explain it, and I'm not going to go into detail, but science can explain that. But what's behind the science? How did this really happen? This, in the beginning, was God. It happened because God allowed it to happen. And all the intricacies that are in our bodies that keep us alive and going, it's just amazing to me how it even makes any sense sometimes that I can know and be alive and be able to love you and love others. That when I think about God and His, I'm losing my words because this is so beyond, I think, even my words, how spectacular and amazing God is and the things He does. And so we always have to remind ourselves, in the beginning, God. In the beginning, God the mathematician. In the beginning, God the scientist. In the beginning, God the astrologist. In the beginning, God the biologist. All of this is made possible because in the beginning, God. It's not about science, but who are we and why are we here? That's at the core of this story. Now, let's talk about it. Creation versus evolution. I think it's an important one that we address. I've heard so many people say that if you believe in evolution, you can't be a Christian. I don't buy that. I believe in evolution. I don't have an issue with evolution. Here's why. Evolution is about a process. Creation says God is behind the process. So I can believe in evolution and understand it as a process that God created. Somebody said to me in the earlier service, let me make sure I get this right. Evolution is ongoing creation. Oh, that's really well that he said it. Evolution is ongoing creation. God's behind the process. In the beginning, God. And so my fear is when we have these conversations, I have heard people tell young people, you can't believe what your teachers are teaching you. You have to believe in the creation story. We lose young people in the church because we want to make them pick between science and theology. And I believe that science and theology can live together. But we have to be willing to explore that. That's why you have a mind, so that you can process and reason and experience the world around you, that we can understand that this is possible. But while we are doing science, we can't lose God. In the beginning, God. So, next question for you. Where does your worth and value come from? Oh, no, it doesn't. It comes from my car I drive. My Dodge, my black Dodge, and it's not a Toyota like his. I'm not going to go that now, are you? No, you're right. It doesn't come from anything of this world? No, it absolutely does not. Quite simply, this story tells us where our worth and value comes from. Let us make humankind in our image. We are made in the image of God. Is this our physical image? Everybody say no? No. Just look around you. Do any of us look alike?
Yes.
There are a few abnormal But here's the thing. To be made in the image of God, what it really means, it's about our ability to reason and to think. It's our ability to love. It's our ability to be in relationship. And it's our ability to have choice. This is where our worth and value is derived from. In our ability to have reason, in our ability to be in relationship, our ability to choose, our ability to love. That is the image that we are made in. Now there's a mission, and it's given right in Scripture in the creation story. To have dominion over creation. That is point one of your mission. What does it mean to have dominion? Power. Responsibility? No, that's a good word. Anybody else want to take a shot with me? Control? A little bit.
Understanding.
What's that?
Understanding.
Understanding, yeah. Well, when I think about dominion, I think about God giving us, governing is probably a better word for talking about creation, but caretakers. We are given to be caretakers of God's creation. Not takers of God's creation. Not users of God's creation, but caretakers of God's creation. And when I think about that, I think about our world and where we exist right now, and the scientists, and I want to use my reason and experience now, is telling us that there's global warming going on. As a Christian, our response is to say, what can we do to help the environment? Because this is God's creation, and we need to be better stewards of it. It's a natural outpouring of the scientific exploration that's taking place right now. How can we be better at taking care of the world around us? And so that's one easy way to look at it, but here's the way I think often gets overlooked when we're talking about being caretakers over creation. Are you part of God's creation? Everybody say yes. Yes. We're to be caretakers of each other. I think we forget that piece of it sometimes. It's easy to talk about the world and the environment, but it's a little bit more complicated when we start talking about being caretakers of each other. And the mission statement number 2 in this is to be a companion. You are called to be a companion of one another. So God kind of covers this in both. He says, be caretakers of all creation, which includes us, and that we are called to be companions of one another. God created man and woman. Some of you like the second Genesis story where God pulls a rib out of Adam and creates Eve. A pastor friend of mine said, version 2, the new and improved model. I happen to prefer Genesis 1, where man and woman are made at the same time, equal. And created to be a companion. We were created because God said we need companionship. That's why we were created. Now, that doesn't mean everybody's called to be married, so you single folks out there, I'm not trying to exclude you in this. I believe we're truly called to be companions of one another, no matter where we find ourselves in our life. Before Jesus said, love God and love your neighbor, God said to be caretakers of each other and be companions for each other. I personally think they say the same thing, just in different words, in different languages. And we're going to see that idea of being caretakers for one another, to be companions of one another, play out throughout Scripture. That's God's message to us, to be caretakers and companions of one another. Now here's the great thing, or the bad thing, depending on how you look at it. In the garden, how many rules did God give us? Everybody say one. One rule. One rule. And you know what? It really wasn't all that hard. One rule. You may freely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall die. We all know the story. And we have to ask ourselves, What is my fruit? What fruit are you tempted to pull off the tree that you know very well you shouldn't? We all have. We all have. What I've learned in my lifetime is as I wrestle with a fruit, whatever it is, trying to figure out how I need to get away from this, right? I need to do better. And once I kind of get that part of my life in order and things, I find I just walk over and pluck another piece of fruit off the tree before I even realize what I've done. And I've already gone down that next rabbit hole of plucking a piece of fruit that as soon as I pulled it off the tree, I knew I shouldn't have done it. It's in our nature. Sadly, it's in our nature. So what is your fruit? What are you wrestling with that you need to put aside? You see, we repeat this story over and over and over. This is where our practical stories come from, this particular thing. Because this is human nature. Over and over and over. But here's the best part about this story, and often overlooked. Towards the end of chapter 3, we didn't read this morning, but towards the end of chapter 3, it says this, "And the Lord God made garments of skin and clothed them." You know what? God knew it would be cold out there. Yes, God kicked Adam and Eve out of the garden because they plucked from the tree that they shouldn't have plucked from. But God gave Adam and Eve grace. He clothed them as he sent them out into the world. And not only did he clothe them, in chapter 4 in Genesis, we learned that, oh yeah, he went with them. He didn't leave them alone. This is grace. This is what real grace looks like. Yes, there was a consequence for the sin, but there was grace that covered them, and grace followed them out into the world. The stories that we're going to be looking at address 4 different things, all of them, including this one. Our struggles as human beings, and we struggle. Living up to God's will. Now, that's a hard thing to do. The consequences of our sin. And they all end with grace. So the summary for this morning. In the beginning, God. We are created for God's mission, to have dominion over creation and to be companions for one another. And when we succumb to sin, and we will, there is always grace. Let's pray. Good time, guys. Before I pray, one of the things that I'm trying to remember to change every Sunday, I'm trying to incorporate the Lord's Prayer to this service. And so for those of you who don't know it, when I ask you to pray, the words will be up on the screens. If you don't know, you can open your eyes and look at the screen and go with it. Almighty God, just thank you for this day. Thank you for this glorious day that you surrounded us with. For the sunshine and the breeze and the people gathered around us. This particular body of the Christ, I thank you for, dear Lord, for their love for you, for their faithfulness in you and of you. Lord, we're trying to step into our story in such a way that we can answer some of the questions that we ask. Who are we? Where are we? Who are you? And so we thank you that you provide those answers for us. That you provide a way for us to be in this world with you. That you show us how all these pieces are put together, and most importantly, you show us that you are always there. That your grace is always there. We thank you for this, Lord. So Lord, give us the courage and the strength, the wisdom to step out into this world, to begin to make a difference in this world around us. To share your love in such a way that first it changes our lives, then it changes the world around us. So we thank you for this. We pray this in your most holy Son's name as he taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory